I think that this is long overdue. Round of applause. I think we finally made it. We have a home of our own. We're live exclusively on X and YouTube on the Agoric channels. Ant-Man, let's talk to the people.
And thanks for joining us, everyone. That was a nice intro, Miguel. I wouldn't mind running it back again.
Yeah, we could run it back for sure. I think there'll be plenty of more for sure in the future. And for those of you listening to us in the future, thank you. We appreciate that. Retweet, share, like, leave a comment. We'll make sure to leave any engagement. We'll comment back to you, of course. But for those of you listening to us live, thank you again. We want to make sure that the experience is one that you'll start to get used to as we do more of these. And of course, one hell of a guest that we have on today with Native Network.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Promises to be a good conversation. Private chat's already bumping off.
Yeah, 100%. So again, to introduce ourselves, I'm Miguel. I'm part of the marketing team here at Agoric. I lead community marketing, and my co-host Ant-Man.
I'm Ant-Man. I've been on the marketing team as well, and I lead the product marketing over here.
Yeah, so 100%. So we're going to go over our most recent announcement with Native, with their integration of the orchestration API. And I think, again, there's a lot to download for this one. I think there's a lot of information that you guys are going to learn more, just not only from the API side, but just overall, just an ecosystem overview of how, the benefits, the pros of integration like this.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And it's not just Miguel and I who are going to talk about it either, but we'll talk a little bit not only about the vision behind the partnership and what's going to come of it, but we'll talk a little bit about some of the key tech and features that are making it all possible. And then possibly, see if we can convince our guests to share a little bit of alpha of what's coming next on the horizon.
Can't make any promises, as always, alpha super exclusive only to those of you who like the video right now. If you like it, I'll try my best to get some alpha, but really shortly we're going to bring up our guests, so we'll see you in a second. Hello, GM.
Good morning. Hello, Robert. Hello, Ant-Man and Miguel.
Hello, everyone. I still have my wrist. My wife was like smiling about it.
Yeah, you guys are coming from a really big trip. You get a couple of days of rest of being back home, but I'm sure there's more, in the pipeline. You probably won't have to stay too much longer. You're going to travel again very soon.
Yep.
That's right. It's super busy. And I mean, Cosmoverse was kind of different this year than the last year, I must say. I was coming to Cosmoverse, I didn't know actually what to expect. Yes, because like we have seen some changes in the market, different teams sponsoring than let's say the usual teams. So actually it was very interesting.
Yeah, expanding out. I mean, seeing all the Bitcoin stuff, it was great to see Native ready to talk to the world, but also the lots of others seeing, just where always Osmosis is going, pulling in more things that are now connecting to Cosmos and actively going from from other ecosystems into Cosmos. Just all of that together in one place was great. So lots of people excited about orchestration. Lots of people that the more people have users, the more interested they are in orchestration, the more they see the users that actually want use cases, the more those users want to be able to do it with their assets on other chains. And I know the use case that the use cases that Native has are very, very cool.
Yeah, it was interesting to actually see also because you guys were sponsoring a hackathon, and there were a couple of teams tackling the orchestration API. I mean, from our perspective, we also were thinking, actually, like already, discussing that we wanted to sponsor the hackathon, and then we pulled out, mainly because like not being ready, like also a little bit, changing direction. That our goal is this, providing Bitcoin rather than, like competing with every single VM out there. So yes, like enable them rather than compete with them, win-win scenario. And I remember like we were in April. In August, related to the Cosmoverse and Hackmos, we were discussing. Okay, so what shall we do? I mean, are we going to the hackathon? We want to have a lunch. There's a lot of Bitcoin narrative. Cosmos is basically the place to do the interchain stuff. And we need to remember when we talk about Bitcoin, Bitcoin is inherently very limited. So the way how you access it, it must be some interchain. I mean, L2 is interchain. Like it's like our protocols that we work on in Cosmos, protocols in different. If you want to go outside of any single chain, it's already interchain, right? And then how we can leverage, how we can actually build the best, do it in the best way.
I like that. I mean, one of the cool things. So I like that Native is focused on a particular. Let's get Bitcoin involved, as you say. I mean, Bitcoin programming there is more limited than any other chain to a first approximation, but you can do just enough to enable integration with off Bitcoin things. I like that you're focused on bringing that connectivity in, and then a use case that leverages the people that people want. What are your you mentioned a few on stage. What are your first use cases for Native? And that and then let's talk about how that integrates with how that's enabled by orchestration stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to firstly say that there's this policy of L1s that everyone wants to do the same thing and do something better, right? Like millions of maybe not millions, but tens of different L1s. I mean, there is not much differentiation. It's always good to have a competition, yes, because this moves us forward, right? But creating yet another L1 just to do the same thing, like a small improvement, it's not necessarily the win. Right. So what we find, yes, is like instead of adding that competitive, bringing that competitive landscape, let's empower it. Let's do what we do best. Like I have a very strong experience in Cosmos, launched already 2 chains, being part of the core Cosmos team. Shiva, my co-founder, yes, he was a director at Facebook, then director at Polygon, and at Polygon, yes, he was driving the whole narrative about super chains, yes, aggregation layer and all that stuff. And then we were designing the architecture, and I remember yes, we were talking often what and how we actually want to win. Yes, what is our, let's say, flagship project? And then we thought that, okay, if we have that great architecture, yes, zero trust, we can talk about it later. What was the zero trust architecture? What's the zero trust model? We thought that this is the architecture actually, yes, to bring Bitcoin interchain. And this is our goal. And then we can unpack what does it mean, yes, interchain. Yes, because there's way more than just token transfers.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So you publish, we publish it. You built a beautiful diagram of the stuff that you're starting to work on, that we're working together on and putting together for sort of the core use case of what I've been referring to as in-place trading, right? Where your Bitcoin is moved on, it stays on Bitcoin. It's not, wrapped up and moved off and, and various things. Is that a fair characterization of it as sort of the in-place trading of Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually think about the right term, right? I was talking about just a swap, and then Shiva was saying there's no swap because on the swap you have that usually you think that there is AMM, but there's no AMM. Do you want me to show that diagram to the folks? I can present it.
I don't know. Does that work for you, Miguel? And then we'll talk. Then we'll talk. We should talk some about orchestration, though I've said it elsewhere. But yeah, bring up that diagram, and then let's talk through where it goes.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good.
Concrete use case, maybe.
Okay, I'm not sure if does it work now. Let's see. My first time like doing it here.
Does sharing work?
Yeah, you could shoot me a link, or we could do it live. Just
No, I'm sharing now. Am I sharing now?
He hits the present button.
Yeah, I
you
hit it.
have the option to present at the bottom as well.
Yeah, okay, let me do
We
this.
get
So share
we get to
screen.
learn new technology while we do all of this stuff, right?
Okay, allow.
Yeah,
Building in public.
we're going unscripted for the people here. So while we wait for Robert, he
Okay,
has
we
it
does
can-
it
pulled
work
up.
now?
I'm gonna add it now. You got it right here.
There we go. Yeah.
There we go. Let's zoom in a little, Robert.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Is it visible now?
There you go. Yeah,
It
there you
is,
go.
yeah.
A little bit more.
Zoom a little more.
All right.
Yeah, zoom more.
Make it more readable. There we go.
All right.
There you go.
Check the max. Right. So one of the unique case that we as native enable is, providing access to programmable access to Bitcoin. And now, when you think about what we as Cosmos folks think about it, is usually what's the next level. Yeah, so we can program and deploy all the smart contracts in every single chain, Uniswap in every single chain. Does it solve our problem when there is a Uniswap on every single chain? Not really. It solves some problems, but create other problems, right? Create liquidity problems. And Dean, you already mentioned about that. Yeah, and you already mentioned about the liquidity aggregation, which we can talk about it later, right? And now, what is IBC? IBC is not a token transfer. IBC is a programmable protocol. It's a protocol, actually, to create applications on top of that. Yes, it's really designed for that specific use case. Token transfer is just a trivial application that we can think about. And Agoric with Orchestration API actually takes it to the next level, right? Because orchestration is not really only about sending the tokens. Orchestration is coordinating things. Yes, it's really okay. No, you are the orchestrator. You are the director.
Right. Business logic
And
in the middle.
Business logic in the middle, right? Like we see that the world is going multi-chain. That's for sure. Ethereum already, yes, they paved in their ecosystem. Yes, that the way to do stuff on Ethereum is L2s. Yeah, Ethereum was Vitalik was saying, okay, like this is the way how the Ethereum should work. Interestingly enough, today, yes, I was looking at some statistics. Still, there's about like a 40. So new applications, new startups. The breakdown between what's deployed on on Ethereum mainnet and Ethereum L2s is 40 to 60%. 60 to 40%. So 60% on Ethereum, 40% on Ethereum L2s. But it's growing. That's the point, right? This is where everything goes. So in Cosmos, we already followed from the beginning. Solana, they have that, how they call it, extension chains. This is just like another way to say that, they don't want to have bridges. They don't want to have, like L2s. But
you get a modular expansion everywhere.
Exactly, right? Bitcoin L2s is also like pumping up. They have other problems. Avalanche from the beginning, yes, the whole idea, the whole design was that, we have one protocol, consensus protocol, but many different chains. Cardano recently even announced that they're going big, so I guess that they try to be like a Bitcoin L2, but I'm not sure if this will change anything on the landscape. Right?
And
because
all these
if you are just
connected. I mean, sort of the premise of orchestration, right? All these chains are connected pretty well, but programming across them is really hard. And you've got a case where, in particular, to be able to leverage this service for integrating with the rest of the world, you want to be, what's your use case here is programming across that.
Correct. I mean, it takes time to realize, yes, to design those stuff. It's not that something that we embrace over a night. Right? Like Ethereum, it took them 8 years, or maybe 7 years to get on the traction yes, for the L2 narrative, right? Bitcoin is now embracing it. Yes, Solana also starts that. I mean, we have now Near, which is also in this chain abstraction team, also promotes that whole narrative. So definitely, I mean, tech people want to talk about modularity, but as business, I think we should talk about connectivity, yes, interoperability. Yes, because actually, like as a user, I don't care about modularity. As a
Right.
user, I care that I can easily use the infrastructure, the system. Imagine that you have email, as you go to Gmail, and you cannot send your email to, I don't know, Outlook or your whatever else server you are using. That's a crappy.
Right. So in your case here, this is swap. I mean, the example you had was swap IST, which is a stable token backed by assets in the Cosmos ecosystem. Swap IST for
Right.
for Bitcoin, right? But keeping the
So
Bitcoin
let me
on the Bitcoin chain. Go ahead.
Yeah. Let me. I will go to that, but let me only expand that narrative. What I mean with this applications. Why this is important. So the traditional way, if you want to program assets, is that you bring them to the same chain, and then you program it. The reason, this is in most of the cases, this is how it works, is because it's easier. There's how most of the tools are designed, and you have that atomicity. You have other features here that are basically easier to do.
I like that
But
characterization.
again,
My characterization is sort of, Solidity is, for example, and Cosmoplasm. They're all about starting and ending your program within one block. And so to do anything useful,
Right.
you have to bring everything there so that you can do that all within one block. I like your gathering notion. I should add that.
Right. And I think we should again take a step back and think from system architecture perspective. There is a lot of good learning, a lot of good how to say a lot of thought process and literature at universities. When you go and study computer science, right, there's all fundamentals about how programming languages work, how to design algorithms, how to design systems. It goes from the beginnings, from the math then to the system design. So you build up that fundamental knowledge, and the goal is to leverage it. Yes, and then you end up that you have this microsystems. What's it called? Microservices, right? I remember when I was graduating, yes, it was like this. Everyone wanted to do a microservices. Yes, so there's still so much learning that we need to do in Web3 that we kind of want to forget Web2. This is not the way how we should actually do it. Like you can always, learn on your mistakes, but the better way to do it is basically learn from someone else's mistakes,
right?
And be smarter.
So JavaScript controls trillions of dollars through microservices in Bloomberg's and Salesforce. Now, you're providing a microservice that gives us all access to Bitcoin.
Right. Yeah, and we already get that, 30 years ago when we transitioned from mainframes to this, like a multi-computer environment, and then cloud. Imagine the cloud functioning as a one big mainframe. It's impossible to scale, right? And then imagine that you use when you use WhatsApp, right? You have a different service for doing recording, different servicing to doing as like a text messaging. There is this database, so everything is actually whatever you touch today in the world is like multi-service systems, right? They're distributed.
Yeah.
I don't want to use decentralized, distributed, and it took us in the Web 2 I don't know 30 years to embrace it. Yes, the whole I don't know, remember maybe in the late 80s. Dean, maybe you will remember better.
This time.
Sorry.
Let's do it faster this time.
Yeah.
I don't
Exactly.
wait 30 years.
Right.
Been through that.
So like what I want to say here is that blockchain is nothing different, right? If blockchain is going to power our world economy, there is no other way than having multiple systems that can communicate and interoperate. And again, communication is not only now you just send an asset and then you program in the same way, so in a single place. It's not going to work. It's not going to scale. The way that it works is that you have the specialized systems. Yes, like DYDX is doing hyper trading, right? Perpetuals, as fast as possible. I mean, you can have that super decentralized Ethereum that its goal is to have tens or maybe even 100,000 of validators. You can have Cosmos that will have a fast finality and very solid security principles. And then, let me now bring Agoric here, yes, this JavaScript framework with, hardened architecture, yes, to do more sophisticated stuff with JavaScript, which is a web language, and, try to make it bulletproof. I mean, nothing is bulletproof, but, this is what we need to do. We need to design the system that it will drive us into the right patterns.
Right.
And this is what I want to go now with.
Sorry, go ahead.
And this is where I want to go now to this diagram, right? Like IBC is this really beautiful design, and more chains are after long advocating many, not many, a few years. IBC went live when 2020, I think, something like that. So after advocating it, we see other systems that are trying to embrace similar concepts. Let me bring layer 0, for example, because recently a few friends were asking me about it. Right? But what we want is we want to go beyond the token. Yes, we want to go beyond the token transfer and build applications on top of that. Right? When you go in REST, is REST a token transfer, a message transfer? No, it's a whole protocol. Right? It's clearly designed. What methods do you have? How you organize the resources.
Let's pop back up that diagram.
Yeah. Is it on? Do you see it?
It is now on. Yeah. So it's back up. Right. And the interesting thing here, right, is Bob on the left starts his trade where he's got Bitcoin and wants to trade it for IST, the stable coin. Alice has IST and wants to trade it for Bitcoin. But one of the cool things that you show in this use case as well is one of the things we can do with orchestration is, you do from the orchestration contract, you can make an account on another chain. And I've got some questions about your diagram here. You can make an account on another chain, and then that account control on the orchestration side is an asset that I can move around while leaving the stuff in place on another chain. And so, I can have an account that has Bitcoin on, through native, and now I can talk about this account. I can trade on it. I can see whether it's, transitioned. I can, lock it up. I can do various things programmatically where the actual movement and control of the Bitcoin is asynchronously controlled over these, lines 3 and 6 here of IBC talking to native. And that lets it, lock it up or put it up as collateral or various things without having to move it off the Bitcoin chain and without having to move it all in one place and have that happen atomically, as you described, right? I can say, okay, I'll lock it over there. Now it can participate in IST as collateral, or now it can participate in this swap you have, where, somewhere there's a decision of, okay, I've gotten the IST I needed from Alice. I will go ahead and authorize the transaction to transfer the Bitcoin to her, and then the contract guarantees to deliver that IST to Bob. But the IST never went back through native. It just went directly to Bob, from chain to chain, in the Cosmos ecosystem. And being able to have, things happening on different chains that are all part of an orchestrated workflow, this really shows differently. And having stuff locked up, we can do similarly where we've got an account that has a locked up NFT that only makes sense on the chain that minted the NFT. Like, Omniflix has video gating based on that NFT. Doesn't make any sense to copy the data of it over to some other chain, but copy the rights to it. That's the kind of thing you're doing here, is controlling remote rights without having to move the asset or the details of it off. And that's pretty cool.
Dean, you mentioned that you called this in-place trading.
That's because the
or-
Bitcoin stays in place on Bitcoin.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, that seems like one possible avenue. Are there other ways that like the orchestration contracts, or you could potentially leverage orchestration to do other opportunities to basically, like, once this sort of integration is in place, what are some other cool things that people can do with sort of orchestrated Bitcoin, if we want to call it that?
Well, I know, Native has several. I mean, the obvious one is collateral for IST. So it's just, to me, Bitcoin is the gold out there in crypto, right? It is this, pretty much all it is. I mean, people are doing more things on top of it, and that's cool. But its core thing is this critical monetary asset, commodity asset that, I mean, that, its price might fluctuate, but that core value is just going to, on average, grow over time. And that makes it a capital asset that should be valuable across all of crypto, and enabling us to build on these digital assets to make more and more richer and richer, decentralized finance and just capitalizing arbitrary human orchestration, right? And so that getting that on board and being able to remote control it, as Robert, as you said, is the not having to bring everything in one place, which is fine for simple cases, but it really is, it breaks down pretty quickly. Being able to do these things where, one piece happens here and one piece happens here, and they're on not just different chains, but different ecosystems, and yet they're all part of some business logic, is just amazing. What were your others, Robert? You had other use cases. Go ahead. He's muted.
I just want to clarify one thing, because we had that long conversation about Web2 taking those learnings and why we don't leverage them in Web3 and so on and so forth, right? I think, you get a very quick walk through the flow. I just want to highlight one thing for the listeners, because I guess we probably didn't highlight it clearly. What's unique here is that at the beginning I said that it's bad that we are limited, that the whole protocols that we work together today in blockchain ecosystem, that you need to move those assets and then execute on one chain and then move back. And it's very limited, right? Because it's only about the assets, and then you cannot abstract from it. So what this use case shows up, and what Dean quickly said about the flow, what I want to highlight is that Bitcoin stays on Bitcoin, and IST stablecoin stays on Agoric. And now when we exchange, is that we don't move Bitcoin between the chains. Yeah, so we Bob. So let's say if Alice has her Bitcoin, right? IST, Alice will receive Bitcoin on Bitcoin. Bob will receive IST on Agoric, and the Bitcoin doesn't move away from Bitcoin. IST doesn't move away from Agoric. And that's the key. And if I may now, why this is important, because now you can have higher abstraction. So think about it, that there is an application, and then Bitcoin is sitting in some application. Maybe there's some identity links to it. Now you can do within the one organization, you can orchestrate. Yes, because you have some proof, you can have identity, you can orchestrate your asset, you link it with identity, link it with your proof, link it with your organization aspect between different chains. Right? Because when I move token, I wrap it, I lose some information, right? But when the Bitcoin stays on Bitcoin within a certain wallet, and I know this wallet belongs to, I don't know, let's say Google, right? Then I can represent that really in other chains, let's say here, let's say Agoric. What's next? So imagine now this Bitcoin is in some protocol, is staked, and there's some long staking period, and I don't want to unstake it. It's it's generating a yield, and for whatever reason, I want to just sell it now, because we don't need to move it, we don't need to unstake. I can still change the right to that Bitcoin without unstaking, without without moving it away. All of it will work, yes, because we can really like design applications on top of that. So we really move away from token transfer to designing applications.
Right. And having it be rights transfer and rights, more complicated programmable rights and things like that on top of these underlying critical assets.
Yeah, exactly. So now we can link a smart contract on native that is, let's say, managing the staked Bitcoin, and then that with IBC, and there can be applications built on top of that. Nothing prevents, now we have a new era to design bridge-powered applications, and this is what Orchestration API enables to do it in a good way, let's say in a more friendly way. And this is where we need to go. It might sound like it's early, but slowly and steadily, it's still like a lot of to explore.
Yep. Yeah, I think there's some low-hanging fruitcake. Yeah, fruitcake. There's some low-hanging use cases. I don't know where I get low-hanging cake. I don't know. Low-hanging use cases. Like just the transfer. But just transfer is one. But then transfer and pay, or collateralize, get IST, and then pay for something. Or there's these things that are just beyond what people can do. They can do this. That's easy. That's straightforward. That's impossible, right? And orchestration lets us reach past what's straightforward into the set of things that are currently pretty much impossible, like this, lock it up in place, use it as collateral, mint a stable, go off and buy something or put it in a yield pool or whatever it is that people want to do with their money. They don't generally just want to swap or transfer. They want to do it for a reason. And this gives you a primitive where you can now incorporate it into those larger use cases, which is really powerful. I do have a question for you. That's a technical question. If we have time for me to ask a question, and this is sort of related to that diagram. There's the message that goes over IBC to native, right? Item 3, which says, which basically that's after Alice said, I want to do this trade. I've locked up the IST, and that's telling it, okay, the IST is locked up, right? What's the message 6 that comes back?
IBC confirmation that buy order was executed with Bob address to transfer IST. Yes, so it's basically like releasing the, so it's confirming. So here, yes, we firstly need to lock up the IST, right? And the IST is locked up. We cannot, it's asynchronous. So we cannot at the same time release IST while the message to transfer Bitcoin, yes, in Bitcoin, is moving. So so the message back is that we confirm that Bitcoin executed. So now the orchestration contract in Agoric can release IST to Bob.
Okay. So that's sort of the release part of the escrow. One of the very first smart contracts we wrote on Agoric was the escrow contract, which was like fit on a slide, 20 lines of JavaScript or something, and then we built that into our underlying engine. So seeing it used, I just wanted to I wanted to make sure that's what it was, because this is exactly the way you do some of these large scale things. Is great. I've got a smart contract that will escrow for a period to see the message that things have unlocked, and so I can now release escrow. And so what's happening is you're getting that in order to absorb the latency, absorb the fact that you can't have an atomic world in as things scale up. And so that's really cool. So it's as a tech, obviously part of my life as a technology creator, seeing people get it and then do something novel and interesting is always exciting. So I love what you guys are doing.
Right. There is still a lot of learning, yes, because those are the patterns we know from the system design in Web 2, but again, they are not embraced in Web 3. And we have a lot of so-called experts that they know how to do atomic stuff in I mean, we could do it in 70s with Lisp. That was super easy as well, right? But we need to advance, we need to move forward and go to, let's say, era of Web 2 in 90s or 2000. Now we need to apply it
yes,
to blockchain.
Yes, absolutely.
This is what orchestration API, this is what ABCA is about.
Right. Yeah. And so this gets us, I mean, we already have orchestration is deployed for interchain. You can do all the transfers and the kind of stuff that you're doing and use the, escrow services and stuff like that. But, back to this extends that out to Bitcoin, and the ability to pull those assets in. I think that's plausibly very exciting for the extended Cosmos ecosystem. Once we see any of this happening, then what are all the things that every other Cosmos chain wants to do? If not only do they have Bitcoin at hand, because lots of people have looked at wrapped Bitcoin as you talk about, but you can do things with it programmatically, and that's what your approach adds here. So that's really
Right.
cool.
If I may add like something here, what I'm really like looking forward is that to have that. I mean, we were talking about modularization at the beginning, to modularization of the orchestration contracts. So imagine that you have this blocks of piece of code, right? Let's call them modules that are deployed, tested, audited. And instead of copying pasting them all around the world, I mean the contracts as we seen that basically the pattern in Ethereum.
Yep.
Right. That you copy paste to whatever was audited and try to modify it, and then you try to analyze if you actually
come on.
yeah, that you introduce an error or a vulnerability by modifying a line of code. And we already, by the way, have seen it multiple times that changing one line of code can actually introduce a vulnerability, and that's very, very often. Many millions of dollars were lost this way. I think interesting one was I can't recall which project was that, but they copied Aave, they modified something with governance. It sounded super simple, but there was a hole for that.
Yes.
So
and they lost $25 million. This was D something, but not D Wallet, but someone else.
I forgot. Yes. Anyways, so going back to that modularization orchestration. So imagine that you have these blocks that like a high level that will say, okay, let orchestration module to tell you that every for IST, or collateralize it for a better way, collateralize it for IST, right? And then you have a shop, and then instead of like copying pasting, it will just call it with the right parameters, and it will sort out. So we really this will move us to this service-oriented architecture, where instead of like I don't know, recreating, copying, and doing all that all over again, we have the services that will provide those pacing blocks, and then you decompose it, and we build business around it.
Right. And JavaScript, one of the main reasons JavaScript is still one programming language is because it allows that composition. And so we designed and thought, we've designed a lot to make it so that you can have components, you can have contract components that are providing services to other contracts, and they can invoke each other, and that will be available. We'll make that smoother and better and faster in the orchestration environment. We also, each orchestration, one orchestration can invoke another. So if we built a function that does one of these, like, in my talks, I give examples of here's a compounding thing. And so that's a reusable component that, I'm doing a thing and I want to run the compounding logic, here's the account, here's the token, go do the compounding thing. That kind of composability is, with code modules is absolutely a thing, but extending it to make it easier to have it be for smart contract components, definitely something that I want to see as well. I mean, that is the power of JavaScript engine, of long-lived processes where, my example, they can have native timers. Hey, do this every hour, wake up and rebalance the portfolio, or every day wake up and charge interest, or see whether something needs slashing, or, redeem my rewards, bring them back over here and buy more Bitcoin, whatever it is. Having those components as reusable things, very much a key thing. And so I would want to see a component, and this is something that together might come through, is a component for exercising the other half of a Bitcoin trade. In typical finance, and we did a bunch of work with this in design-wise, architecture-wise, last year, the year before. in typical finance, there's what's called delivery versus payment, right? It's the you've got one thing, I've got another. It's a fancy name for escrow, but it's a little bit of a biased escrow where you're going to lock your thing up, and I lock my payment up, you lock your asset up, and then the swap happens. And that delivery versus payment is exactly what you're using here. It's that asynchronous distributed delivery versus payment, and adding functions for that to make it easy, to make it already well tested. So you just say, yeah, I want one of those. Do a swap. I don't want to have to implement fancy swap that can do sliding amounts to make sure we aren't hitting slippage limits, and some assets are on this AMM and some assets are on that AMM. Just do a swap, because I'm in the business of selling tickets, right? Not in the business of doing swaps. And so providing those components, I look forward to your input on what components you can both provide and what components you need.
Yeah, I mean, I already mentioned that. I mean, you also mentioned about the collateralization.
Yep.
Yeah, so this diagram is about swap, but there is no coincidence that we talk about stablecoins, because
Right.
when doing business, you actually want to do a business with stablecoins, because you can define a price that you don't want to change every second,
Yep.
right? That would be
Any
a
long-term
disaster.
contract kind of wants to be priced in that. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what we actually discussed. Yes, at the backyard of Cosmoverse. Yes, to like the next level of that would be, okay, you have your Bitcoin, you don't want to sell your Bitcoin. Yes, if you think that the Bitcoin will go to 100,000, right? Then why you should sell it? But maybe you need the cash because I don't know, you want to go for holidays or buy a new car, or something else, right? So you can collateralize it, and again, you can stake it firstly, then collateralize it, and do things with that, right? So doing it with ISC, that would be a next step, and I think the best proof of concept to embrace the algorithmic design here.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. No, very, very excited about the stuff you guys are doing. So.
Right. So again, really quickly, as we're heading towards the end of the discussion and the conversation here with Robert from Native and Dean from Agoric, appreciate over the 200 plus people who took the time to watch us and listening to us live. So again, thank you so much. We see the commentary, we see the comments. Great discussion from Haas. Appreciate that comment. There's a couple others from Max that we'll kind of address there later on. They're just compliments, of course, of the discussion that we're having here. So again, as
Hopefully
we close
some of the
this
questions
out,
they asked.
yeah. So for last closing commentary, I guess, from the both of you.
Is it like a time for alpha?
Any kind of remarks? Yeah. So I'll start with you, Dean. Any alpha or anything that you want to kind of mention here?
So, like I said, I'm very excited that this is activity bridging out to another ecosystem. Right now, what we've got launched is everything reachable interchain. But we will be, as Robert mentioned, adding new capabilities. We expand in two directions. One is we'll be adding new capabilities. I've shown a toy preview of what the automated timing stuff look like. Auth-Zs. There's various things that people need from that are early access folks need, and I expect Native may have some requests of their own. But then the other is where we've already got the start of reaching out, connecting to ETH. And so, the next direction is how do we connect ETH? What does that look like? So come see what we have to say at DevCon. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
I hope Aragon will provide you. I think Aragon will provide you the solution, right? Because the guys are building now this IBC for Ethereum, and then
who will?
That's the magic of Aragon, right? I think that's the right name. This
Union,
new
Aragon?
implementation
I don't know about Aragon.
No, Aragon. So
Okay.
there's this new implementation of IBC that will actually work with Ethereum seamlessly.
Eureka?
So that's like the whole thing that building standard, something that is really well thought from the ground up.
Yep.
And once we done, we basically leverage it, and the super magic happens.
Yep. Yes. we're not adding new bridges. We're actually letting people programmatically use the bridges that are out there.
Exactly. So what I'm looking at, yield. I'm looking at yield. So I mean, I mentioned here about like something that we can do with IST, but I think like that right after. I mean, we need to get dirty with simple things. If you try to get dirty with difficult things, then you risk that you will not deliver.
Right.
More teams using it, so reach out to us. I think Agoric is like super interested, for new projects, new ideas. I would say that let's start with something simple because we need to like deliver, learn. There's always some feedback, always improvements. But that's like general advice. I think that this is a good space to be in right now. But yield. So stay tuned. If I may share some alpha, the alpha is build. We still need to like think how to pronounce it, but that's an alpha from our side, and you will hear more about it.
And I think
So
you're
build.
Yes, that's build token, right? Oh no, you're talking about your own project. Yeah, okay.
Build. So we have Bliss.
Build. Yes.
Bliss is about
Excellent.
interoperability and I mean with this model, right?
Yeah.
So security, interoperability, this kind of things, and builds. I guess you can already imagine what it's about.
And tie the stuff that you guys are doing, where we got this access over to these, as we get out to ETH and Solana, that the things that people can automate across those. Again, you're this exemplar of, I want to do something over here and something over here, and you're not going to be able to pull those together across the some of the slow or narrow bridges that we currently have. But man, you can orchestrate those, and so I'm looking forward to what we can do.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much,
Dean, Robert. Again, 100%. Thank y'all for joining and having a conversation, especially with our community. And we look forward to continuing to work, especially with the native team, with this integration of the orchestration API.
We're going to make it. Thanks, Dean. It was my pleasure to have this discussion with you.
Thanks, Robert. It was good spending time with you in Cosmoverse. Look forward to the next event. I would say you use this word holiday that I didn't quite understand, but I think that's the next conference, right? Time to go back to building here.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, y'all.
Bye,
Appreciate
folks.
It. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, and man, look, great conversation with Dean, CEO Agoric, Robert, co-founder Native. A lot to kind of digest here. Some really good information, both on the technical side and, of course, both on points that both Dean and Robert were making. I think another fantastic conversation, at least here from us on the Agoric side.
Yeah, absolutely. They covered a lot about how the product might work. Dean and Robert both really went into the guts of how the integration between Agoric and Native can help IBC chains access native Bitcoin without it moving. It's pretty cool. So if you're looking to wonder how, or if you're wondering about how it all works, they went into some good detail about what the products will actually do. And I appreciated them both spending some time thinking about what, how can we apply this? What could this joint solution actually unlock for the broader ecosystem? Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, and then the diagram, you guys want to get a closer look, it's agoric.com/blog. Our last blog post with Agoric X Native. You can check out the diagram that they were showing on screen there too. You want a closer look, I think some fantastic information in that as well. But again, appreciate all 200 plus of you joining us live. And then for those of you who are watching us after the fact, thank you as well. We appreciate that. Make sure to retweet, leave a comment. We'll get back to those comments as soon as we can. And then, of course, as always, if you're watching us on YouTube, follow us on X at Agoric. If you're watching us on X, make sure to check out the YouTube channel to watch it after the fact as well. So again, we really appreciate all of you taking the time to listen to us talk. And again, this is not the last. There will be plenty of more. And then again, this is will be an ongoing series that we do here at Agoric. These live streams will be a fantastic platform for us to continue to discuss integrations, collaborations that we have with our partners.
Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you, Miguel.
All right, appreciate y'all, and again, we'll catch you in the next one. See you then.